Good day, everybody. This is the Ecclesiarch here, back to you with guess what? FORGECAST, baby. So it's been a while. Maybe some of you thought that you would never see this again, but miracles happen. Not Christmas yet, but I'd say an early gift is in order. And who else would I be back with if not BJ the Brave? How's it going, BJ?
Yeah, good. Glad to be back. Good to be doing some podcasts and talking about Warpforge. It has been a while, and man, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today.
There's a lot to talk about. There are changes. There's the Space Wolves, which I was very excited to share this one with BJ because I'm not a big Space Wolf fan, but I know that he loves them. So I was like, BJ, they're dropping the Space Wolves. So,
people probably don't realize that, do they? So for those who don't know, like from a lore perspective, like Ecclesiarch's a massive Thousand Suns guy, and I'm like a massive Space Wolves guy. So like sworn enemies.
Yeah. There has to be a tabletop match at some point, BJ.
Yeah. Oh man. They're like Logan Grimnar actually was Logan Grimnar was my first ever model.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was my first ever. Well, I say first ever model. Actually, technically that's not true. When I was a young kid, I think someone bought me an Orc biker. I think my mum might have bought me an Orc biker, but I wasn't really collecting at that point. I had other friends who collected. I actually couldn't afford to collect it, and but my mum was quite cool, and she'd always let us, like, she'd give us a room and let us mess up the floor, and so I had some friends who did collect it, but their parents wouldn't let them play at theirs, so they'd all come around mine, and we'd just kind of like make the battlefield like the whole floor basically, and we'd play. And yeah, so I think technically when I was young I got an Orc biker, but when I actually started collecting, which was actually when I was at uni, I bought Logan Grimnar, the old Grimnar model, the metal one, when he's out with the axe to the side like that. And yeah, so I'm a huge Space Wolf fan, and I've already bought the £100 bundle. I don't know why. I'm not encouraging. This is just a totally irrational fanboy purchase. I didn't even look at it. I didn't even think about the word vault because that would have probably made me vomit. I just went, do you know what? Space Wolves. I'm in. I'm getting them. Yeah, and that was it, really.
Despite me being on the not gonna buy train right now, if it were the Thousand Suns, probably I'd not be able to resist. So I kind of get you, man. Sometimes just your favorite drops, and it's like you just gotta go deep. So
yeah, and don't get me wrong. When it's Thousand Suns, I won't be spending a penny. So these things.
So eye for an eye.
Exactly.
Magnus has one more eye to spare, so we could do something like
that. Exactly.
So BJ, I think it would be fun to first start off with some Space Wolf discussions, and then maybe we can move on to some changes and other things. Now, when it comes to the Space Wolves, yeah, I know that you are absolutely excited. We already have some confirmations. I think it's already clear that the Warlords are going to be Grimnar. Maybe Njal is going to be the Epic, just solidifying the Psyker in the Epic style that we've already had with two factions, specifically Ultramarines and Black Legion. And I believe the last one is Ragnar. But we've also seen Arjak as a legendary, most probably. So, there's going to be a lot of named characters. We're probably expecting Bjorn, the Dreadnought, to drop as well. So, do you have some expectations? Are there units or types of troops that you're expecting? And what kind of a faction are you expecting in terms of gameplay? Then I'll also give you my perspective, maybe based on what I have seen in HHL, and we can just have a little discussion on that. So, what are your expectations?
You've just thrown a spanner in the wrench there. You just said about Bjorn. I'm trying to remember, but I wonder whether Bjorn won't be in this one, and whether Bjorn will be. So I think what they'll do with Bjorn, he'll either be. Oh, lost you. I know. I think with Bjorn, he'll either be a legendary card, or maybe he'd even lead a reinforcement. He could actually be a Warlord reinforcement, which would be kind of interesting. I don't know that they will go that way, but it's definitely.
It's doable.
It's definitely because he is a HQ. So in the tabletop, he's actually a HQ. He's not like a heavy support or he's actually a leader. So there is potential that they could do like a Bjorn fell-handed. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I mean, that would be quite possible because we've had Dreadnought Warlords in HHL, so I would assume that there's no problem making a Dreadnought who's a Warlord. So just like
Mm.
I assume that maybe for Emperor's Children, Shalaxi Hellbane might be the Warlord that comes with the reinforcements. I don't know, just a guess. So yeah, Bjorn as a Warlord maybe could be cool. I mean, he kind of deserves it. The guy's like been there since the Heresy. He's been there during everything basically. So I mean, you
The
gotta
other
give it
one,
to him.
the other one they could do, because I always like to think like who would be the reinforcement drop? So they're going to hold them back. The other one that might be is Ragnar, because Ragnar's kind of got like the whole Black Mains theme, and so you could like see a theme, like a reinforcement drop around him. So I'm expecting Logan as the legendary big 40 health guy. I'm expecting Ulrich the Slayer as a chief wolf priest, and maybe Njal Stormcaller.
I think Njal and Ragnar are kind of confirmed because I think we got the art from them
Oh, did
already.
we have we had the art for Ragnar?
Yeah. So I assume that's gonna be in the starting one. I don't know.
Yeah,
It might be.
it'd be interesting to see which of those four then they leave out. Maybe they do Bjorn as the head of a reinforcement.
Could
Then,
be.
I mean, I think that I think we'll get some cool. I mean, the artwork looks really good. There's a couple that are a bit dodge, but the artwork looks really good. Logan Grimnar art looks amazing with a fired up
Oh
axe.
yeah.
I think we'll get things like rune priests as like psychers. I think they'll just be units. That we'll probably just be able to get put two cards in. I don't know, like in terms of the troops. I mean, obviously, they're quite basic. They have the Grey Hunters and the Blood Corps, like the main troop types. But then you get into like, what do they do with the Wolf Guard? So are they going to do like Wolf Guard and Wolf Guard Terminators, which is like a big thing in like the collection. Obviously, you've got veterans. Wolf Scouts are a really iconic thing, and when I think back to my tabletop games, like Wolf Scouts they were a really powerful unit as well, and it's quite cool because they're very different to Space Marine Scouts, so they play very differently in the game, and they've got like a different role in the. So they're definitely going to feature. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to like just seeing what they do. I mean, there's things that are kind of crossover with Marines, and this is always going to be a bit of an issue whenever they do an Imperium faction, right? Although I think Wolves are pretty different in how they lay out, but you'll get bikers, you'll get guys with jetpacks, and the Stormclaws, they call them Wolves, but they're very similar things. But I think what I'm really hoping is that I've got no doubt that the artwork's going to be cool and the cards are going to look good. What I'm really hoping is that it just doesn't feel too generic. I'm really hoping that there's a strong, in terms of the gameplay mechanics, that there's a really strong theme. Like it feels different to play Space Wolves than playing Ultramarines, for example, or playing Dark Angels. I'm sure it will, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what the rules look like. But, how about yourself?
I would say maybe that's one thing you can definitely hope for quite a bit, because one thing that, like, as a guy who's played both of their Warhammer games, one thing that they definitely get right on most occasions, this is the flavor of the faction. Like, it usually feels like the actual tabletop or lore faction. Like, and maybe everything just you said, basically, maybe I'm also expecting some Wolf Cavalry or something like that, because it's been popular on the tabletop. Wolfen, obviously. One thing that I want personally, I don't know if it's like
Wolf Cavalry. That could be the expansion. Harold Deathclaw and the Wolf Cavalry could be an expansion, couldn't it?
That could be,
Cyber
yeah.
Wolves, stuff like that. Yeah.
I like from my personal, it's my personal thing basically, and my personal love for it. So I do want to maybe see a Land Raider or a Venerable Dreadnought, some older models as well. I know right now Repulsors and Primaries are the thing, but would be, or Redemptors, but could be cool to see that. Or if they end up still pushing the newer Dreadnoughts, maybe we can see something other than a Redemptor, like maybe variants like Brutalis or whatever, right? What's the third one? There's Brutalis, there's Redemptor, and there's the third one.
Executioner, is it?
No. It's like the thing with the missiles. Okay, whatever it is, yeah, the
Yeah.
third pattern of the dreadnought, right? So there you go.
I think that'll be interesting to see how much they overlap, right, with like Marines. So obviously they could put a Land Raider in, obviously they could put all the usual units that there's lots of crossover. But how much of that do they put in versus going down the unique things like long fangs and the heavy support and I mean, you know, that I mean I hope that I don't mind seeing some crossover, but I hope they don't miss any of the iconic units.
Exactly.
I think they've got to go those first, and even things like like an iron. Is it the Iron Wolf and the Servitors, like a little mechanical system? Iron Priest, sorry, not Iron Wolves. Yeah, the Iron Priest and things like that for the vehicles. So yeah. I mean, from a lore perspective, I'm really excited for the Wolves. I got to say, like, I kind of, even though I'm a huge Space Wolf fan, just purely coming back to Warpforge and the CCG angle, I would have preferred like the Drukai, maybe, or maybe the Votan. I would love to see the Votan. I think just because it's so different, and we've already got quite a few Imperium factions. I didn't like the Emperor's Children faction at all, and that put me off a bit. The Drukai, because I thought there's more torment and torture and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if we've had enough of that theme. I think the Votan would have been like from a timing perspective, but I can't complain. Like I say, I'm a big Wolf fan, so I'm happy to hear.
I mean, plus, as you said, Wolves do have that advantage because they have a lot of unique units on the tabletop. They do have this like personality. I know that there are some other chapters that people want to see, but there are some chapters that will be harder to make as separate factions because they don't have a lot of unique stuff. But there are things like, for example, the Grey Knights. You got the Blood Angels, and you know there are some that are quite unique on their own. And I think Wolves were like one of the top ones. I did not expect them, to be honest. I was expecting the Dark Eldar, but as I said, I also would have liked some more Xenos because might as well just make it more, you know, diverse in terms of what you can play. So it's just not more reskinned Space Marines. But when it comes to Space Wolves, they are quite unique. So I do think that that'll be the thing that's kind of gonna make them more enjoyable. In terms of like their mechanics, I expect a very aggressive faction if they're gonna stay true to the HHL theme. Because in HHL, basically, they had like 3 abilities, I think. One was Ward, which was better camouflage, which didn't go away when you were... camouflage goes away when you attack, right?
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, what? Brain freeze there. Ward did not go away, and on top of that, it also blocked rallies, so it was like a complete immunity from anything. They also had Pack, which was whenever like another unit attacks, then you get some bonus. And then there was a Hunt, which was a little bit underwhelming. It was just when you attack and the target survives, do something. So mostly it was based on like bashing your opponent as much as possible, but also building like a board where you can act together, and also having this anti-psyker capabilities, which basically Canis Helix thing, right? So yeah, the theme was good, and I think it would be pretty interesting. And we had
I was gonna ask you what if there was like a favorite, like keyword or favorite something from the HHL that you'd like to see carry over into Space Wolves.
Not necessarily, because I would like them to focus more on maybe the saga and other things that they have on the board, but on the tabletop. But I would expect Ward maybe to happen again because it's their thing, right? They're naturally more resistant to psychers, so it somehow has to be represented with the Canis Helix, basically, right? But technically speaking, I don't know if they have something like that on the tabletop. Do they have like any psychic resistance or something? But in any case, lore-wise, they should be, right? So maybe we're gonna see that.
Yeah, the standard rune priests would give you they would give you immunity to psychic spells. You'd have things like the wolf tooth necklace, which you could, get as like upgrades, which would give you more kind of like psychic defense and stuff. Oh man, I tell you what, it's making me think. Like, I think Ulthware would be a really good place to go after this, right? Because you've got that kind of like, if they've got some anti-psyker stuff, and maybe it'd have been better to do Ulthware first and then bring out the anti-psychers. I don't know, but
That's actually possible. That's actually possible, BJ, and let's like kind of shift to that. And I want to ask you, as you remember, like from the updates, there it was mentioned that apart from the Space Wolves, we were gonna get a reinforcement drops in this quarter, and it would bring a much anticipated character. So there are many like thoughts going on. Is it the Silent King? Is it Trezin? Is it Eldrad
Oh,
Ultron? Or
Eldrad.
is it like Farsight? So who's it gonna be, right? Some big names,
Mm,
obviously. So yeah, what do you think?
yeah.
What are your expectations on that?
I don't know. So they because they didn't have a reinforcement drop in the original roadmap, right? Like we were just expecting one new faction, which is obviously Wolves, and
No,
then
no,
that was
they,
it for
they
this
did. They
year, right?
did. They did mention that there was gonna be reinforcement
Oh, okay, okay.
with a much anticipated character, is what they said.
I think it'd be cool with Eldrad, although I mean, again, this is kind of like my bias because, again, when I got into Space Wolves, my best friend who we both started the hobby together, he collected Ulthwar. So
Hmm.
I kind of like would selfishly like them to do something
Hmm.
really cool around Ulthwar. We're not really sure out because they've sort of gone back and forth. They don't call the Eldar, they call them Samhan, and it's kind of left the door open that they could release all the different craft worlds, Bieltan and Ulthwar, etc. But then they've sort of like made this sort of back step where they've kind of like gone back on that. So we don't really know what's going to happen still with that. And I would hope that we get like a full uh Ulthwar themed, like Eldar psychic related theme. I think that would make a very cool expansion, and they could do some really cool stuff. And we don't really have like a class that's we don't really have a faction that's like pure spell driven as well
Hmm.
at the minute. So I think that
Uh,
could open up some new
It,
ways of
it is
playing.
quite possible though, BJ, because we do have the Thousand Suns in HHL, and the way that the Thousand Suns function is that they have a separate energy pool, which is called a Psyker pool. So units generate Psyker at the start of the turn, and then you can use that to either cast psychic powers, or whenever you play a Psyker unit, you can pay a little bit, choose to pay, and it does an extra thing. Like for example, there's this unit that when you play destroys a random enemy unit, but if you pay 8 more Psyker, it will destroy another one. So it's like
That's
it's
cool.
called focus. So I think yeah, Thousand Suns are pretty good there. So I think that as soon as they introduce the Psyker thing in Warpforge, maybe there will be room for things like psychic factions. It would be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
a bit like when they released, what was the first one where they released with the mechanic where you was it Prey? Was Prey the first mechanic
Yeah.
where you go down on the thing, and now you've got agenda and all these other kind of copies of, once you've got the mechanic in the game, you can yeah, maybe they'll do something like that. There's just so, look, it's like we've always said about Warpforge. I mean, it's based on 40k, and the opportunity with this game is, in terms of design, they've got a playground, they've an unlimited playground, really. There's so much cool stuff that they could do. Obviously, we don't quite know what the relationship with Games Workshop is in terms of how they get sign off on certain things, and I know that's definitely going to be playing a part
Of
of
course.
some of the decisions and whatnot. But yeah, like we're geeking out massively here, but I think in terms of the lore, I think there's lots of options. I think Space Wolves coming out is going to be cool. The game's, for me, Warpforge has been a bit slow this year. I mean, last year it was very fast paced. We got lots of new releases. It just felt like you were going from one exciting thing to another. This year has been a very different year. They've made some very different changes in direction. They've just made a load more, which I'm sure we're going to get on to talking about. And I mean, I'm kind of happy that over the summer they said, you know what, we're not going to release any new factions. We're going to work on the game. I thought that was a wise decision. Although I think they could have. I still don't always get like how they prioritize what, right? Because they're a small team, they're limited in what they can work on. And some things I go, yeah, that's really cool. And then other things I just think, how was that the priority? Like for example, I'll just say this now because I know this would have come up later, but like as someone who's been playing Shadowverse Worlds Beyond quite a bit in the last few months, it's become so painfully obvious to me whenever I boot up Warpforge how slow the game is. Like, I know it's something you used to go on about a lot when I first started, and I never really used to fully get it because I didn't play HHL and I didn't really feel it coming from the games I played. But my God, I am sick. I've made my decision. I've made my action. I'm sitting around waiting for, it
Forever.
feels like forever. It feels like forever. Like I was playing chess on another screen because I was just so bored waiting for it to get. and I'm realizing how slow it is, and I'm wondering whether some of this drive to to skirmish and everything. Like one of the things I enjoy about skirmish was just that it was a faster way of playing. But it's like what I really want them to do is speed up classic. Like when you play a game of Shadowverse, you make your decision, and things just move quick. The animations are quick. The speed of getting through the turn by turn, second by second gameplay is so much more efficient, and it really feels like you're kind of on a lag. Like you're watching this video on 0.5 speed or something in Warpforge, and it's for me that would be like number one. If there was one thing I would do, is that, and then I think you would people would feel like, okay, this game is more fast paced. This game, I'm not waiting around, and they'd achieve some of what they're trying to achieve with thing. But anyway, that was a little bit of a B road, and I'm sure we'll circle back to some of that. So yeah, super excited for Space Wolves, and we are going to be releasing cards very, very soon, right?
Oh yeah, starting one day, we are going to be showing you what awaits. I am excited myself, as I said. Fingers crossed. Give us Land Raiders. Let me shoot those God Hammers. I wanna have a Venerable Dreadnought. I want to see some OG stuff, and I want to see some original Space Wolf stuff as well. So yeah, hell yeah, I'm waiting.
One of the things I'm curious about in Warpforge is because obviously we have attack is broken into melee and ranged, right? And with Space Wolves, they are obviously as much as the Orcs, they're heavily biased to melee, right? So so I'm kind of curious about how they're going to balance that. A lot of so if you take like the Grey Hunters, for example, which are the main Space Wolf troops, they still have a bolter. In fact, they can actually carry a bolt gun with one hand. It's like one of the things. It's called True Grit. It's one of the things about Space Wolves is they can actually carry not a bolt pistol, which is usually what Marines carry with one hand. They can actually hold a bolt gun with one hand. That's how badass the Space Wolves are. So in technically speaking, they should be fine. And it's interesting that in the game, in the tabletop, their ballistic skill was often the same as a Space Marine. So in that sense, you would expect that to translate that they will have still have good range attack. However, the Blood Claws, which is like the younger kind of Marines, if you like, they're more like charging with an axe, rah. So they represented that with having worse ballistic skill, which again in Warpforge would mean that they would have probably good melee attack, but a worse range attack. But as we sort of know, whenever they've done this, it's been quite a problem in the game of Warpforge, because obviously if you have a unit that costs 5, and yes, it might have 5 or 6 attack melee, but if it's only got 2 range attack, it's often a bad unit, right? Because unless it's got flank or something that allows you to do something that turn, your opponent can just prey on it. So I'm kind of curious, that might be my number one thing that I'm kind of curious about in terms of like how they're going to get that balance right between theme of Space Wolves, but also just the mechanics of Warpforge of melee and range attack. That makes sense.
Now you imagine when they're gonna add World Eaters. That's gonna be funny. I think the only thing that's gonna shoot is the Rhino, and that's it. So yeah, yeah. I can see what you mean, BJ. With the Emperor's Children, it was also the same, because you either had Noise Marines with high range and low melee, or you have a lot of stuff that just melee altogether. But I think Emperor's Children especially handles it quite well, because in most cases, what they do is they have high melee units as flankers, so they just, instantly give you value. Or what they could do is probably maybe think about Vanguard and stuff like that. By the way, I have been seeing a more of a resurgence or a comeback from like Tyrant Guard and Lich Guard and stuff like that ever since the Squid Buggy has been shut down, because I think Squid Buggy was single-handedly killing those cards. So now I've been seeing them more. So I don't know, maybe the time is now. I don't think Space Wolf should have like 0 ranged attack, but maybe you would expect something like a 4 energy, 4 melee, 2 ranged, or 5 melee, 2 ranged, or something like that. So maybe don't put it like 0-ish, because they still carry those guns, but melee should be higher. I'm more interested in what they're going to do with Grimnar. Is this going to be like another special type of warlord? Because we already have 2 warlords with 3 attack. Now Lucius has joined the list of 3 melee attacks. So it's pretty interesting, actually.
We shall see. We have not got long to find out. Just if anyone's wondering, we haven't actually got the cards yet. So it's not like we're secretly aware of how the cards actually work.
Yeah, we're waiting.
We're expecting to get them soon, aren't we? But we haven't got them yet. But anyway, yeah, they will be with us next week. Check out Ecclesiarch's channel, my channel. We've got, I think, a full list from on the news channel of the Warpforge site now with the sort of new release teaser schedule. So check that out. I'm also going to be doing a full review of all the cards once we have them. And definitely doing a little bit of content this month around the Space Wolves as well. So yeah, look out for that. So I mean, Ecclesiarch, look, we've, in addition to obviously the Wolves coming out, there's been a lot happening in like the last few months, and I was kind of curious, like where you're at with the game, what you've been up to, and kind of like what your thoughts are, and then maybe get into this huge studio update announcement that I know you've already talked a lot about on your channel, but maybe we can bounce some of that about. Yeah.
Oh, sure. When it comes to what I've been up to, I'll give you a quick rundown, then let's hear what you've been up to, and then we can move on. So I haven't been doing a lot of Warpforge lately, I'll be honest. Mostly I was waiting for changes because, Warpforge, despite it has like a lot more content than it used to, it still pales in comparison to the amount we have in HHL. So in HHL, like if I wanted to make content, I could make it whenever I want because there's like 40 factions or something. So here, sometimes there's like a downtime when I can't really make anything new. What I did make was the newbie guides. I think they're going to be outdated from now on, so I'll just remake them. But that's mainly what I worked on. Otherwise, I have been just playing some other games, like that new Might and Magic game just dropped. I've been trying that. I've been playing some Dawn of War ever since it was released. And apart from that, I've been actually focusing like on two things. I've been reading mostly reading Warhammer. I actually finally managed to finish the Heresy setting fully. Now I'm like halfway through Siege of Terra, so that's been a lot of fun. And I've actually been painting some minis because I've been sharing with you some of those, and it kind of spiraled into that because my friend like bought Dark Angels because like I kind of got him into Warhammer. Then I felt guilty that now he was the only one spending money, so I was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna join in. So yeah, I've been painting some Thousand Suns. Been fun.
Nice.
Been pretty.
Have you got a trade? Have you got a trade shop near you then, or do you get them online?
No, I just get them online. I do have a shop that's like has paint and everything, but models I just have to get online. It's not available. I just finished my Magnus. Maybe he's a little visible behind me. Those horns you might see to the left. It's like behind a very non-transparent window, so you guys might not see it. But I've been having a lot of fun doing that. But now I'm kind of, despite the whole negative attitude that I also have towards the current changes, I'm still excited to see how it goes. Because as one thing that I did mention on the main chord was that I don't want to still make conclusions until I try it, even though my maybe attitude is not the most positive right now. So I'll see how it rolls. So I'm of course going to be here. I'm going to be making content. I'm going to be checking out the Space Wolves and everything. So we'll see how it rolls.
And did you play Skirmish when it came out?
Oh yeah, I played a lot of Skirmish. I actually made one deck for it as well that I put on the channel with Dankler. I actually found it quite fun, Skirmish, to be honest. But you know what I did find about Skirmish was that I would play like, let's say 50 games, not in one day, but whenever. And then I was like, okay, now back to Classic. Because Skirmish is very fun, but sometimes you want to go back to that classic CCG mode, right? Where you just build a deck, you think a lot, you play control, and not just fast-paced combos. But it was a good refresh. I'm not going to say it's a bad mode. I think it's actually a good thing. Because I do like when there's there's like multiple ways to play the game. And sometimes like this fast mode is really cool. Some people were even suggesting maybe we should also make it the opposite. The slow mode where you even have even more health and stuff. So, options are good. The only thing that, my viewers mentioned yesterday that is true is currently due to the low player base of this game, maybe it's going to be pulling players from Classic, which maybe is not the best thing. But as a standalone thing, sure, I like it. Why not? Game modes are good, but yeah, there are some issues. So what have you been up to, BJ?
What have I been up to? I mean, obviously, sort of since I made my last sort of big update on Warpforge, which I went back and watched actually recently, just to sort of get my head back into kind of like where I was in terms of what I'd said to the community and how I was feeling, and we're talking like 3 months ago now, and I was very clearly kind of very frustrated with Warpforge at that point, and I think I needed to have a break, and it's been really good to have a break. I've mainly been playing Shadowverse Worlds Beyond. I've really enjoyed that game. I've it's got its own issues, and I'm about to do like a bit of a review of where the game's at the minute. So that was one of my videos that will come in. But I feel like it's been nice. It's been really refreshing to sort of be able to jump into a totally new game with new classes and new cards to work out and new archetypes and a new way of playing and stuff. So I've really been enjoying that. And the other cool thing is that a lot of the guys who were in the guild from Warpforge went over to Shadowverse as well, so we kind of have the same guild in both games, and we're doing really well. We've got like an S++ tier as a guild, and actually one of our well-known Warpforge players, Barrick, he won the Shadowverse. He won in the official tournament. They have 4 what they call SVO qualifiers, and you have to go through a lot to win one. And he won the qualifier. He won it. And that means really he's now qualified for the SVO finals, which is an in-person 8-man tournament I think it's in Singapore. So he's going there next weekend. And it's for like 15K prize money. And if he comes in the top 2, he qualifies for the essentially the Grand Prix final on the December 26th, which is like £500,000 US dollars, right? So Barrick is like this weekend I'm practicing with him, and he is like, it's just awesome. Like, and Barrick is very well known in the Warpforge community. So it's been a lot of fun, like, and taking and being with some of the guys. But I have been playing Warpforge. Like I've got touched base with it. Like I said, I've really struggled with the pace of the game. But I did think when Skirmish came out, that really was, I would say in the last few months, that was like the biggest injection of enthusiasm. And I went back into some old archetypes, and I ended up settling on a combo Nexus. Remember my old combo Nexus build? And oh my god, that deck! This deck was absolute fire. It was absolute fire.
One turn kill.
Mate, honestly. Well, it's also the fact that obviously because you're going up by 2. You get 2 energy, don't you, every turn? So the whole point of Combo Nexus is you're just kind of waiting to get to, like have 8 energy or whatever, so that you can just do 40 damage in 1 turn. And it's like it takes 4 turns to get there. So I think once I got it down, I pretty much had a 90% win rate with that deck. I was just blasting through. It was a lot of fun to play. So I really enjoyed it. Now, I know people have views on kind of like, well, what about long term and how would it? And so we're going to get into all that. But certainly just as a new thing coming in and a new way to play, I really enjoyed my time with it. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, gentlemen, now for the thing that you've all been waiting for. By the way, BJ, just off topic, whenever the 1,000 Suns drop in this game, we got to do a Forge Clash. Like, it should be a huge Forge Clash of Suns versus Wolves.
Definitely.
Like best of 10 or something.
Yeah.
That would be like crazy.
It's funny, actually. There's 2 really famous Japanese streamers in Shadowverse, and they just did a best of 45. I think it was. It was like a 3-hour video. It was like best of, but they're like pro players, and it was we'll do something. I don't know if we'll quite do that magnitude, but we'll do something.
Yeah, 45 definitely. Might be too much. So maybe we should do best of 9 for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
9.
Okay. Yeah, it's got to be 9. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Alrighty. So as for the changes, BJ, there's a lot to discuss here. I think we should start from the smaller ones and get to the bigger ones. And as a teacher, I always had this idea of whenever there was a parent-teacher night, you always start with the good, and then you deliver the bad news. So let's actually start from the things that are absolutely good, okay? I personally think, and by absolutely good, I mean it's good and there's no bad side to it. I would say that the fact that their changing the missions to not be trade specific is an absolutely great thing, because it was so annoying having to play practice because of that. Because even then, like when you say that Warpforge is supposed to be a game that somebody plays for 5 minutes when they have extra time, why would you force them to like use that like 5 to 20 minutes to play decks that they don't want to play against bots? So now I think that making it generalized is going to be a good thing. I also like how they changed the campaign point system. I think that is amazing because, again, why do I need to click every single time, right? Because I had this so many times when I click the points and, oh my god, it's Tyranids, I wanted Necrons. Why should I need to do that? So I think those are like two very good quality of life changes that everybody wanted. And I think that overall, it's a good change, right? No doubts there.
Definitely. It makes a lot of sense, because I used to just spend crystals galore just getting rid of the missions. Because the other thing is, it wasn't so bad when the game first got introduced, when we had, what did we have, 6 to 8 factions or something like that. But now that we've got so many factions, it's like, oh, I don't want to do the agenda mission because I'm not interested in playing Dark Angels right now. And then now I've got to pay a resource, which just feels bad. And so much of this stuff, and so much of what they're trying to do, e.g., and they don't always get right, it's like understanding, as I said this before, it is understanding the user experience. It's understanding the emotional reaction. That might not seem like a big deal, but first of all, you're making me pay to get rid of the mission I don't want. No, first of all, I'm annoyed that I've got the mission that's popped up. Now I've got to spend resource that I've earned to get rid of it, with no guarantee that I'm even going to get one that is going to be aligned with what I want. So now, and then I get another one. I mean, sometimes I've re-rolled 4 or 5 times. Actually, the emotional impact of that is we're not talking about like life and death here, putting perspective. But I'm just saying, is it positive or is it negative? It's negative. It's a negative feeling. It's a negative reaction, and that's not what you want in a card game user experience. Everything should sort of feel encouraging, and so I think this is a great change, and just make it more generic and let people have a chance to.
Let people have fun, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you, BJ, on that. Like, you're 100% there. Absolutely agreed. Yeah. So when it comes to the next thing, let's talk about the next rather smaller thing. But I think which has good parts and the bad parts, right? It's actually this is something that the community is split on, and honestly, I'm also in two minds. I'm not exactly sure whether I love it or not love it that much. It's about the defense cards. So now the defense cards you get to build your deck around, right? So there's a good side to this. So good side is that now you can really tailor your deck around the defense card. If you like, for example, if I am, let's say, playing with the reinforced cover with Space Marines, maybe I'll go for like Litharius and more like early game Space Marine build or something, and so on, which is cool. Plus, it also removes the extra time from the match of waiting until somebody chooses the defense card. Maybe it's going to make matches faster. The negative side on this, however, is that I also did like with certain factions, and I'm saying certain factions because they never really managed to balance those defense cards correctly, but for certain factions like Necrons or Sisters, or even Black Legion, sometimes I make a choice. So, okay, I'm playing against the Tyranids, so I'm going to get the defense card of the 3 damage to a random target. But I'm playing against Space Marines who have the 5 energy hard removal, so I'm going to get the Black Hellfire Torch. Am I playing Sisters? I have Astrid in my hand. Now I'm going to do Shrine of the Living Saint. I don't have her in my hand and I have like a Sacred Rose Sister, I'm going to go for a shield. So it does remove the layer of complexity, which I don't like, but I don't hate the change because I think it's all right. It does have positives there. So I think would have been better if all the defense cards were usable. For example, Tyranids currently suffer hard from that because only one defense card exists for them. But otherwise, yeah, I'm kind of neutral when it comes to this change. I'm okay with it. Now I know you liked it though.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I think, and I was watching Silverblade's video reaction. By the way, if you listen to this and you're not subscribed to Silverblade, go and subscribe to Silverblade. It's so annoying that he's not got the 500 subs needed to support the thing. So go and do that. Maybe we'll put a link in the video or something. Anyway, I this is actually one thing I really disagreed with him on, and I don't know where the community's at. This is just my opinion. I like this change. So why do I like the change? So fundamentally, what this change? I'm specifically talking about the defense cards here. We'll get onto the offense cards. It's a change between a like the way it was. It's like a card choice. So you're in the game, and I play a card just like any of your other cards. You play a card, and that will then affect that game. And what I think this change has done is it's instead of becoming a card choice, it's become a deck building choice. So it's become a strategic choice, not a tactical choice. And as you know, like I definitely would consider myself like a deck builder in Warpforge. Like I've always enjoyed deck building and trying to like come up with new decks. And I think that's brilliant, because what that means is, for example, is let's say you and I go, right, let's go and make a Calgar deck, right? So you make your Calgar deck, I make my Calgar deck. Then you could say, okay, that's two different decks. You know, there's Ecclesiarch's Calgar deck, there's BJ's Calgar deck. But then you could say, okay, which defense thing did you put with it? Okay, now let's just copy paste that deck, but put a different defense card with each one, and the deck could not extremely, but fundamentally change, right? Like, let's put that up against an Anvia deck. What's the win rate? What's the win percentage? If we change the defense card, does it affect that percentage? Now, I think the thing that people won't like about it is they'll say, yeah, BJ, but that was the point, that in the game you go, I'm against Anvia, and I can make that choice. Again, I understand that. I just personally think, like, I like the fact that I could lose the game and go, well, maybe this defense card in this meta, maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not. Maybe I need to change the deck. But what I'm trying to say is, I like that it's about a deck becomes a deck building problem or a deck building challenge, rather than like a tactical challenge in the thing. And also, I personally, I don't know if I like the tactical thing. It's almost like a bit of a get off free card. It's a bit like, oh, my deck's not good in this matchup. I didn't read the meta well, but don't worry. I'm just going to pick the defense card that kind of balances things. I personally, I get that people like that, but I personally don't like that. I think that a lot of the fun in a card game like this is building the deck and trying to get the synergy and the chemistry right at the deck building stage. So I'm just saying, and I don't expect everyone to agree with me on this, but I'm just putting forward a perspective here as someone who enjoys deck building. I really like this change. I think that it actually starts to add more identity. It in a sense, creates more variance on the archetypes themselves. Like I said, I could have 3 Calgar decks, and because they've got different defense cards, they actually are different. And it makes you think harder as well. Like, okay, what defense card does go with this type of deck? And let's be honest as well, guys. Let's be really honest, right? 80% of your games, you picked the defense card that you wanted for that deck, right? Like if you were playing Gazgul, maybe you would go with get the extra grots because you knew that Gazgul could buff all the grots. If you were playing a more vehicle flanker type unit, like a control thing, you often went for the cheaper one. 80% of your games, if I went back and looked at your games, you probably played the same defense card anyway. You just probably enjoyed having that flexibility on that kind of like one game that you felt like you wanted to change it on. But for me personally, I really like this change. I'm a big fan of it.
Alrighty. Yeah, I take your point, BJ. That's why I'm saying I'm neutral. It feels like I got one very good tactical thing while taking one away. So I think maybe time will tell. Overall, I wouldn't classify this as a completely negative or positive thing. I'm okay with it. Let's just put it like that. When it comes to the offense cards,
we should also say, as a Tyranid player, it's not going to make a blind bit of difference because you're still going to be taking the decision,
that's
just
one
like
of
you
the
always
problems.
took.
Yeah, I think they need to think about that. I think they need to think about rebalancing some, because toxic miasma has no right being what it is right now. So when Black Legion has a much better card for 0 energy, right? So I think they need
Pretty
to really
toxic.
think about, yeah, pretty toxic indeed. So I think they need to really think about that. Now, when it comes to the offense cards, this is where I'm probably going to be a little bit of a bad cop. And if you guys watched my yesterday stream, I was kind of fuming yesterday, but now I'm going to give more level-headed explanation, but it's kind of the same. I'll tell you what it is. So on paper, when I first saw them removing offense cards, my first reaction was, yes, this is good because nobody needs that. Now, that was my reaction, but then it kind of twisted midstream in my head because I had a little realization. I was like, why am I happy that they are removing this? And the reason why I'm happy is that most of them were bullshit, right? Like, but what I mean by bullshit. So Acid Rain was just meant to make Tyranid life hell. Then you would have Hellfire Outburst, which meant that any Black Legion warlord could beat Galaron, almost any, at least. Maybe Harkin would have like an equal footing. Or anybody basically who fought Galaron and went first could just use that. There was like Orbital Bombardment that was just pure RNG and nothing else. There was, for example, there were like a lot of these things, right? And there were some that maybe were specifically good, like in a certain situation. I since Stelma mentioned to me that like the card where when you get a skull, draw a tactic was good against Varro because Varro's used 3 tactics, so basically only you draw the stratagem and he didn't. So there were some layers of complexity, and it was overall meant to be fun, and it was fun. The problem was against the balance, right? There were some offense cards that were a must, like you had to unlock Acid Rain, right? But then there were some that were absolutely crappy, right? So it kind of created this balance and unreliability in the game. And the correct way of that would be to try to rebalance all of it. But instead, we go the easy route, right? We just remove it altogether. And that kind of a thing I dislike because it seems to me like it's an easy way out. Yes, at this current stage, it should have been done. It's good because now it's going to be calmer and I can actually play Galaron from now on. But it was removed because we just didn't take the alternative way. Now, also, there's like another layer of that. I would just be not mad about it, but there was this other layer that really annoyed me. So it's the running meme, right? The mental load. So I'll tell you, like, it's funny, it sparked a lot of memes, but it's a problem. I'll tell you what the problem is. Like, they mentioned the similar thing a couple of times, like, we're removing this to remove extra mental load. We're removing this because it's an extra overwhelming thing. We are not like 6-year-olds, okay? Mostly people who are playing this game are grown-ass men. Like, come on! Are you seriously telling me that was an extra mental load to take 2 seconds to decide what I need to do? And plus, there was another incorrect thing saying that these slowed the game down. In most cases, offense cards sped the game up, especially like things like Hellfire Outbursts, right? So I think while being removed, it could ultimately serve balancing the game more in an easy way. I think it was removed for the wrong reasons, at least justified with wrong reasons, and maybe it's also the fact that we just can't balance it, right? I think it would have been just better if they had said, like, after attempts of balancing it, it's just still breaking the game, so we decided currently they will be going away, and maybe in the future in some game mode they will be back, right? Just saying, okay, we're just doing this so that you don't feel like your brain's about to explode is not the way to go about it, all right? So that's my take. If you want a more angry version of this, go check my last video. That there you can hear the ranting.
You did get pretty angry. You did get pretty angry.
I did. So PJ, what about you?
How are you feeling right now though? Are you okay to go on?
No, I'm fine.
I'm worried about your mental load. I don't want this to overwhelm you.
I do think that like I've been feeling a little bit overwhelmed with all this information, so I'll let you continue, BJ.
I mean, I do think for you, Ecclesiarch, going back to teaching physics must be like a holiday after playing Warpforge, right? That must be like really, really must have lightened the load. Just trying to think about the meaning of the universe.
After playing the face Spash Gordrang, it is a bliss because that deck is especially difficult.
I think what they're trying to convey with the mental load, I mean, that's a separate conversation. But I think what they're trying to convey, the charitable way of viewing the mental load, I think it might be the terrible choice of words. But I think the charitable way of viewing that is, I think of it as, are you talking about an effortless user experience? Now, if you're talking about that makes sense. That's the stuff I was talking about with Shadowverse. Like, why are you creating friction? Why are things slowing things down? What you want is an effortless and an enjoyable customer experience, a user experience. That's what I think they're talking about when they talk about mental load.
Probably.
But anyway, look, let me talk about offense cards. So, and I promise you, I'm not like I'm giving you. Look, if you watch my channel, you know, I'll just be honest. Like, I'm giving you my opinion. So, popular or not, I like this choice as well overall. I get some of the angst about it, but I like it. Here's where I'm at with offense cards. So, first of all, they've always sucked, right? If you've played this game from day one, the offense cards have sucked. We had, when Tau got released, we had this great mechanic, marker light, you know, central to the Tau identity. We had a warlord in Shadow Sun that the entire thing was meant to be based around her using marker light. And guess what happened? We couldn't use her for about 8 months. You know why? Offense cards. Because there was an offense card that basically said your marker lights don't work. That's basically what it said. And I take your point that they're not. One route would be to say, well, let's balance them. But how do you balance them? Like, you're back to this. It's like a card thing. So you're back to this thing where they've got to have identity. So they can't all be the same. So you can't balance them by being the same. They've got to have identity to the faction. And the problem is, and the reality is, they're not balanced. And part of the argument that I've seen on the fence cards is like, oh, you're removing mental load. You're trying to make it simplify. You're trying to babyfy. I actually think it's the complete other way around with offense cards. If I'm a Tyranid player and you use Acid Rain against me, you've just made it easy for you to win. That hasn't added complexity. That's you've just taken the whole competitive angle of my Swarmlord deck versus your whatever Ultramarine deck, and you've just gone, do you know what? Forget this match because you just played Acid Rain. Similarly, Sisters of Battle, the offense one. Do you know how many Sisters of players have resigned against me on turn 3 because I basically had the thing that pings their praying unit every single turn, and they just go, "What's the point in this game?" Like, I take the point that you could be sitting here screaming at your screen and saying, "Yeah, BJ, that's why we're saying you need to balance them." I get it. I'm no problem with this easy route. I don't think they ever worked. I don't think they made the game more complex. I actually think they just ruined the games. Like, you'd often queue up and go, "This is going to be an interesting match." Oh no, they just went and yeah, they're going to ping every time I pray, right? Okay, there's no game here. Oh, there goes my Shadow Sun deck, right? I can't do anything. Like, to me, that was. I agree with people who say that was bad design. It was a 100% bad design. But my point is, I don't have a problem with this solution. I think that they were like, you could imagine them when they were brainstorming ideas and looking at fluff and looking at lore and going, "Oh, this is a cool idea. What if we added this?" And it is a cool idea and a conceptual, but I would just say in the way it was implemented in the game, and if you look at any other CCG, there's nothing like this. I actually just think they didn't work. The reality is they just didn't work. They weren't particularly fun. You had a massive advantage if you'd unlocked level 45 versus a new, because we're talking about being friendly to new players too. So you and me, Ecclesiarch, we've been playing since day one. We do a deck guide, and then someone watches that video and they go, "Oh yeah, but you use the level 40 offense card. That's why this deck works. I'm a new player, so it doesn't work for me." So it wasn't exactly like good from a community point of view, and I just don't think they added much to the game. Personally, I'm kind of happy that they've got rid of them. Personally.
I mean, at the end of the day, I do agree that I'm also happy they got rid of it because I know that there's going to be one less problem. I do still stick with the fact that it could have been done better, and maybe that was what they should have been aiming for. Same with defense cards. We should not, like, for example, I love what they did with Necrons, right? Because with Necrons, all 3 defense cards are very good. Like, literally all 3 are very good. I can see myself building deck around all 3 defense cards. They're so good. And same with the Black Legion. All 3 are pretty good. And I think slowly what they need to do is they need to take every faction to that level where every defense card is somewhat good. Like, maybe start from the Tyranids, guys, like, starting nerfing the birthing pools is not the only way. Buff the other ones so that they're also competitive, and let's see how that goes, right? So I am more of a fan of not taking easy routes, though I will say one thing. If they're not managing to balance it, removing it might give us a little bit of a breather, that's for sure. So that's where we stand currently.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing is that, you know, some of these changes, they're going to be polarizing. Like, you know, it's okay for different people to have different opinions on them, you know, I don't think you're ever going to make everyone happy. And most of the people who talk about it are, you know, they're either, you know, 40k players. They've been playing Warpforge since day one. They're physics teachers. They're content creators. They're on the Discord. You got to realize, guys, that most people who play this game aren't that. They're probably into 40k. They're probably playing it on the mobile phone. They're probably very casual, and that's though they're not as passionate as us, as the main community that have like been in the game from the beginning. They do matter. They do matter to the lifeblood of the game, and I think that's what. I don't know about you, but that's like my overall takeaway is that the EG are trying to play to that crowd a little bit more.
I mean, I did make a parallel of that with Warpforge, not Warpforge, but Tabletop the other day. Like what I said was that with newer editions of Tabletop, it's getting less and less. Well, it's still a very complex game, but they're removing like layers of complexity, like maybe war gear selections and stuff like that, which of course will be more attractive to the wider audience, but it is going to make veteran players unhappy. Same as it goes with Warpforge. It is making veteran players, part of it at least, for example, me unhappy that this is going away, but maybe like new players are gonna like it more. I can't disagree there. I can't disagree.
It's always the challenge, isn't it? Because like when you go back to the roots of Warhammer, part of the thing that people love, the nerding out, was the role play angle, and you go and look at any D&D book, right? It's like this thick with. My wizard can be different to your wizard in 1,000,001 different ways. And that's like the roots of Warhammer. So the complexity is a big part of what attracted people. But then there's always that flip side of that, which is, well, what's the barrier to entry? How easy is it for someone to get into it? And right now, Warpforge needs new players. I don't know. I'm not saying that general trend is, I'm not saying that it's right the way I want it to go as a gamer. It's not. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I do understand it, I guess, from a company point of view. I'd love Warpforge to to have tournament mode, but that doesn't make you money. There's lots of CCGs that have done that well and died. So there is a reality that underpins this, that it's a shame because it's not what I enjoy about CCG. But these games just don't seem to survive in the market. Look at Runeterra, right? Runeterra was an amazing game. It was backed. It was a massive studio. It had some really huge players. It had a great tournament scene, and it still ended up not working out. And it's so sad that if you're a CCG fan like I am, I'm a huge CCG fan. I've played Hearthstone and pretty much everyone since then. And it's so sad that from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective, it seems really difficult to make a model work in a way that I, and probably many of the people listening to this, enjoy, about CCGs. But it does seem to be a fundamental tension and a challenge behind these games. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. What's the next change?
The next and the main one is probably the skirmish changes. Let's do it all together. So they did a couple of things. Let me quickly mention one thing. So starter decks are coming back, and faction leaderboards are coming back. Faction leaderboards coming back, absolutely perfect. Like,
yeah,
you change that, you gotta do it. And they heard the feedback from community, and thank you for that, Everguild. As I said yesterday, credit for where credit is due. That is good. It was a wrong choice to remove it, and we're returning it. Super. Nobody's gonna say, why did you remove it in the first place? I hope. Come on. Experiments, right? Mistakes happen. So I'm totally fine with that. Now, when it comes to the starter decks coming back and them becoming skirmish decks, that's another place where I have a small problem. Again, because of the justification. They're overwhelming for a new player. What the hell are you talking about, man? Like, 30 cards are overwhelming for a new player? Are you kidding me? Like, come on. Like, give a better...
That's ridiculous.
It's better if you just say, we're making skirmish the main game mode, so these are gonna be like that. Yeah. Cry about it, right? So
dude, when you just imagine like the 6-year-old kid who's into football and is like, "Mummy, can I get some stickers?" They're the Premier, like the collections, like sticker collections, and they're like, and you can imagine the mum going like, "Well, you can only have 6 stickers, because I don't want to overwhelm you." like the kid's got the book.
What
with
are
like,
we talking about? Like,
we're going to collect like 200 players or whatever. No. We can only focus on 6 because you're just starting out the collection. It doesn't make any sense. It's a weird justification.
There's a few things that
Look,
don't make sense, BJ. So I'll just quickly add in, and sorry
mm,
for the interruption. Like the
that's
because it's like the same thing, boiling down to the same
mm,
thing. Again, you're saying that we're restricting it to 4 factions that are beginner, like good for beginners, and then suddenly it's like Ultramarines, right on, Orcs, and boom, Sotek Dynasty. There's Imperial Guard in the game, and you're telling me that Sotek Dynasty is the faction you choose for beginners. And Black Legion, one of the most expensive factions, really. If it was me, I would choose like Ultramarines, Orcs, Tau, and Imperial Guard as the beginner factions, most probably. I don't know.
so I think there's two ways to look at that. One is the way that you're looking at it, and the way I've heard most people talk about it is from the mechanics of understanding the factions. I don't think that's what they're looking at all. I think they're looking at it from a somebody who is into 40k coming into Warpforge. And if you're a fan of 40k, what are the iconic factions? What are the classes, the races that you recognize? Ultramarines, right? Orcs, yes. I think Chaos should be there because, again, if you're looking at it from the lore, the whole thing of like the Ultramarines versus Chaos and the Horus Heresy, it's like it's hard to kind of say that there's a more prime faction than Chaos that isn't Ultramarines, like maybe Orcs. And then I do think Imperial Guard should have been the fourth instead of Necrons, because that's where we're on the side of the game. Like Imperial Guard is a beautiful. They even said when we interviewed when we had the last dev podcast, they specifically said they designed Imperial Guard to be beginner friendly, and it so is. Like I did the whole beginner to legend run. Like I didn't have one legendary card in that
Mm-hmm.
deck. The regiment mechanic works perfectly. You can just do it really cheaply. It can be really like straightforward to learn the game. Just play this card on 3, then play this card on 4, and yeah, absolutely. But I do think switching out Necrons for Imperial Guard would have been a much better one. But I can understand them keeping Chaos in from a
Hmm.
kind of lore perspective. The thing I don't really get is
Why the
why are we
restrictions?
why are we moving to locking things out? So the logic for locking things out or is that what they're what I this is what I don't believe. It's a fool's errand to try and guess what other people are thinking, but I think what they're looking at is um the psychology of these games, right? Is you want to get to the next thing, don't you? So you play the game and you want to unlock the next thing, and then you want to collect the next thing. And I think that that's what they're trying to do in the design space. Is they're trying to say it gives you something to aim for, one step at a time, and then you unlock this thing. The problem is that the execution and the implementation of that is everything. Take the new releases, for example. That you can clearly see they're trying to do that with how they're now structuring the new releases with the vaults but it has the opposite effect. It has the complete opposite impact. I literally said to you at the start of this podcast, I dropped 100 quid on Space Wolves. I know I'm going to be pulling my hair out within like 2 hours of playing because I'm not going to be able to build the decks that I want because realistically it's going to be a month later unless they say they're going to change something drastically. But it looks like these tickets are still in there and all that vault nonsense. So it looks like we're going to be painfully put through the same. So to me, it's about great, give us things to aim for, but how you execute it, again, they're not understanding the user experience. They're not understanding how it feels. There's a difference between me going, oh, right, I'm nearly there. I'm just going to play this so I can unlock this. That kind of like propelling me forward, encouraging me, exciting me, like making me want to play the game. That's very different from me going, this is bullshit. Why am I having to do this? Oh my God, this is just making me want to switch the game off right now. And I think they're falling into the latter camp way more than they are. I get skirmish I get them saying it might be more beginner friendly and maybe saying start here. I saw you said in your video something like saying beginners start here. I think that's a much better way of doing it. Maybe you even hold the hand into the first game like they do in the tutorial, right? Where they just put you in a game. They just put you in a game. Maybe you even do something like that and they're in a skirmish game. But why
Hey,
we're moving this move to almost bury classic, which is how I'm interpreting it, to just
hey,
bury classic mode is really quite worrying, to be honest. It's a
that's what
worrying
it feels
direction for the
like,
game.
yeah, BJ. Because if we
Mm,
do that, then it becomes Marvel Snap, and it's not going to be a good thing. And plus,
yeah.
let me bring you the example that I did bring in my video: Total Warhammer 3. Now, don't get me wrong, CA have their own issues as a company that fans are not happy about it. They've been slamming them for that. But the game itself, Total Warhammer 3, I love that game. And it's extremely complex, okay? Starting from unit stats to things like it's not an easy game to play. And despite it's, I would say, like 100 times more difficult than playing this game. So despite that, when you enter and when you start the campaign, it says Empire, High Elves, beginner friendly, but recommended to start from here. And you're telling me we can't do the same for Warpforge? Come on. Maybe you could just say, okay, if you're a beginner, start by these factions, right? Why do you have to lock it from me? It's like you're telling me, oh, you gotta first prove that you are smart enough to advance to the next level, or what is that about? Like, I can get, like, maybe you could have something like you know how it is in certain card games where you have to reach a certain level, play like 10 games, and you will unlock the other modes. That is okay. Like, I could see you giving them, like, play, let's say, 15 games of skirmish and then you unlock classic. That could be fine, because 15 games of skirmish is nothing. It's like, what, 1 hour or something like that. I could see that happening. So you're kind of pushing them towards playing skirmish, learning it, and then you unlock the classic, right? But now what you're kind of doing is you're kind of forcing them to play one mode with only 4 factions. And by the way, I can, as you said, from a business perspective, I can see what the idea is, but I think that's actually going to have the opposite effect. I'll tell you why. A lot of the new players that come into this game, yeah, some of them do ask, like, what's the beginner friendly faction, but some of them, and we have them on Discord, only play one faction exclusively. There are some, and I'm even talking about some players who have been with us from the beginning. There are some players who only play orcs, some players who exclusively play Emperor's Children. I've even seen people say, I only started this game because I wanted to play Emperor's Children. And suddenly you're telling me that I'm not going to be able to do that? Yeah, I'm just going to go away. So I think it's going to have the opposite effect. I'd say stop the locking, man. Stop the locking. It's not good.
When someone would walk in a games workshop that was, potential new player, and one of the, I don't know, I won't say it's the first thing, but one of the early things you'd establish is which race they were attracted to, right? Like you'd say, okay, so the Marines are kind of this, and you give them like a quick whirlwind overview, and the Orcs are this, and the Chaos are this, and you go through it all, and you would almost instantly see with everybody would gravitate towards a class. So you're absolutely right. Like on that front, like you are potentially locking out. It's like if I'm running a shop, I'm turning away 30% of my people that walked in because they actually told me that the thing they liked were Dark Eldar, and I'm like going, well, you're not allowed to play those right now. You've got to start with Ultramarines. You'd never do that in the tabletop hobby, but that's what we're doing here. So I totally agree with that. I mean, look. The skirmish thing is really interesting, man, because it is fun to play. And in a way, they've stumbled. And I do think they're striving a little bit for Marvel Snap. I think that is because Marvel Snap is doing well, or has done well from a business point of view. So there's no wonder they're taking lessons from it. But Marvel Snap is kind of different because it's very much based on individual superheroes, and 40K and is different to that. It's about huge climactic battles, and it's the armies. It's not about just the individual. Yes, there are individual heroes, but it's different. So I don't know that it translates well. But look, what they've done is they've stumbled upon a fun mode that isn't just draft and classic. And I've got nothing against them developing that. I think it's cool. I just said already, I really enjoyed playing skirmish, right? It's cool. It's fun. It's quick. What I am worried about, which I think a lot of people are worried about, is that we're knee jerking. Are we going to go from here to here? Like we're going to go from one extreme to the other, and now it's all in. Now look, there's some things I think are fantastic. Yes, have their own leaderboards for skirmish modes. Brilliant, tick. Having skirmishing draft, by the way, I think that is genius. Like, I know shouldn't be speaking for draft players because I don't like draft, but I am actually excited to play some skirmish draft. I think draft sucks in Warpforge. 12 games is way, way too many games. I don't know why they don't just simply make draft like 8 games or a maximum, maybe even 6, to be honest. I think draft would be so much better if the runs were just a bit. You can't sit down and do a draft run in Warpforge in one sitting. It's ridiculous. But So having a skirmish draft, I think, is cool. Having skirmish leaderboards, I think, is cool. Having maybe beginners maybe enter the game through skirmish, I think, is cool. But they need to not abandon classic. They need to learn from, make it quicker, reduce the amount of games on a draft run. And also, by the way, skirmish does not require that many cards for a deck, so you're locking out, from a collecting point of view, like, why should I pay attention to like 70% of the cards when I only need 12 cards, like, or whatever it is, like, so that even from that perspective, like, what you need fewer cards, whereas classic, obviously, you want to collect the full collection because you've got to make a bigger deck. So I don't know. I think I'm a bit concerned. I'm not completely pessimistic. This is the first time we've got this information. We've got a lot to see how it plays out. But I am with the community's sentiment that there is definitely concern that we might be going from one extreme to the other. That's what I'm worried about. What do you think to that?
I am with you on that, BJ. I have mixed feelings about the draft, though. That just say my piece. At one point, I like it because the thing that I'm thinking about is how I'm going to spam draft right away so that I collect the Space Wolves faster. Yeah. That's how I collected Dark Angels, by the way. I remember I was screenshotting it to you that every single draft I got a Dark Angels legendary, like, because I made.
Is that a better way? Is in this new release system? Is it actually better to play draft?
I don't know. It seems like it because if it's gonna be skirmish, it's gonna finish so quickly. So it's gonna help collect. That's for sure. And it's gonna slow down the draft. But here's the thing I'm gonna say again: we have draft in HHL event. It's 12 wins. But nobody ever complained. Everybody loves it. You know why? Because it's not as slow as this. And I would even argue to tell you that I like Warpforge Draft by Design better than HHL. I'll tell you why. Because in HHL, you have the option of re-rolling what you get for crystals, which means people who have a lot of crystals or gems that you have there, they get an advantage. Because if I'm a guy who's been playing for years and I have like a shit ton of like these gems, I can just reroll until I get a perfect deck, and you as a beginner, when you face me, are at a huge disadvantage. Now with Warpforge, it's RNG for everybody, so it's a little bit better in that sense. But again, what I want to say is the problem again was the speed, right? It was too slow. It was way too taxing and way too tiring. So again, we found the easy way out. We made it skirmish instead of maybe making it 6 wins or 8 wins or just speeding up the goddamn animations, right? So again, easy way out is my problem, and I know that it's not gonna hurt me as much as it's gonna hurt some players because there are dedicated event and draft players. In HHL, I got my whole collection with event. That's where I got everything there. And there are people who really practice that, really love it, and really focus on it, and it's also a vital part of alliances in HHL because that's not only the faction leaderboard, there's also the draft leaderboard there, which alliance performed the best, and those alliances get the new released cards like instantly in their inventory. So there's a lot of cool stuff. And now making it skirmish, you're making it less complex, so you're making it less interesting. But when it comes to the thing, again, I do not think that skirmish is a bad place for new players. I think it's the best place for new players for a couple of reasons. A new player does not have legendaries. So a new player, one of the things that a lot of people have been complaining to me about when I do deck guys, they say, oh yeah, but like, and some of them are even getting angry at me and not even like, EG saying, oh yeah, but you use like a lot of legendaries and just beating on these new players and it's who don't have the legendaries. And I'm like, well, what you gonna do, right? So I mean, you can't expect me to cripple my deck, because if I cripple the deck, then you're gonna say, okay, but why are you not showing us the best deck, right? So as a content creator, it kind of gets me stuck, and this does help me because new players are not gonna require all the legendaries in the skirmish. I even have decks without legendaries in the skirmish. Like for example, my Ursula deck I think only has 2. So like, it is good for beginners. It's fast, you learn quickly, you can play it with low amount of cards and still make it work. But again, it should not be happening at the cost of classic, right? You're not supposed to be locking in classic. And what scares me, and I said I won't speak until I see, but if the balance of this game is going to start being prioritized based on skirmish, it's going to be terrible. And some people have been noting that the Sisters of Battle buffs have been due to skirmish because they performed bad in skirmish. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing, because I played with Erika the other day on the stream, BJ. I played 10 games with Erika and 5 with Evelyn. I only lost 1 single game, and that was against another Erika. So, yeah, it's not a good thing to balance the game around skirmish. I think the better way is to maybe ban or restrict certain cards in skirmish. So, but again, they're gonna need a separate balancing team for both game modes, and are they ready to do that? Who knows? One more thing.
I'd rather skirmish. I'd rather skirmish be the wild, wild west. Like I think if skirmish, like that's how I'd go. Is like balance it around classic. And just make skirmish like, look, if you're here for fun, fast, and stupid. It's the wild, wild west. It's Timmy mode. It's not very complex, and yeah, it's not very balanced. You can do ridiculous stuff. Like I said, my combo deck would do. I think did I do 52 damage in one turn or something stupid like. But that's fine because it's wow mode. Do you know what I mean? Everybody knows what they're signing up for. But the classic mode, that's I 100% agree. That is what the game must be balanced around. And if they but again, like, you know, it's easy for you, me, and, you know, the army of 8 people on Discord to say one thing, but if they're seeing hundreds of people, thousands of people, whatever the numbers are, flock to this other game mode, then it's, you know, what are you going to do? It's really difficult to argue with it. Obviously, they're seeing something encouraging on the analytics. I think Silverbeard made a good point where he said it's probably just that kind of like, maybe they've overreacted and got a bit excited about that week 1 of something new. And so they got the big bump in analytics. I don't know. I don't know what the data is. You don't know. We don't know what they're seeing. But clearly they're seeing something encouraging that is making them want to go more down this route.
Well, again, time will tell. My attitude is mixed, as you guys know. I am afraid I do not support the restrictions in any way. And as for the mental load part, let me like clear what I'm saying. I'm not saying, I know that we were angry when we were like, are they calling us idiots or so on? I don't think it was their goal to make it feel, I think it was just a wrong choice of words. They're not trying to call us degenerates. I mean, don't take it like that, guys. Well, I'm not going to be speaking for the company, obviously, but I think that is the case. But they really need to work on trying to be a little more transparent. And transparency has been what me and BJ have been complaining about since day one. And by transparency, this is what I mean. Instead of saying that, oh, we don't want to overwhelm you, so we're giving you smaller skirmish decks as beginner decks, say this. We made a choice to remove the decks. We got a bad feedback from the community, so we have decided to return it. But now we are going to tailor it to apply to skirmish because it's the beginner mode. Yeah, people are still going to be happy, but they're not going to be fuming because you called them stupid, right? I think they don't need to lie, okay, is what I'm saying. You don't need to say that you're like trying to protect us from mental load, right? Just say what it is directly, okay? Just say, you know, new players are more attracted to this guy, so we gotta give more attention to skirmish. Totally fine, I get it, but communicate that correctly, okay? Don't communicate that in a way that's going to infuriate people.
Well, they should always be honest, and I really appreciate the extra transparency in terms of it's been noticeable that they are trying to communicate more and say more in the post, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I genuinely think the mental load thing was just bad, like a bad choice of words, like maybe even like a language, like a communication thing. I think what they're trying to say is like, I like to say, if I'm looking at it charitably, I think what they're really talking about is how do we let the player, how do we improve the user experience? How do we let the player focus on the things that matter, like focus on the core mechanics of things that make the game fun, and kind of like remove barriers or remove distractions or just shit from that process. And that's kind of like what I think is the like intention behind it. But I definitely think they've tried to communicate more. I think you're right. It should always be honest about you know, which they have done that in the past, right? They've gone, you know, we said we were going to do this. Actually, we're not. We realize that's not a good idea. There's a couple of points as well, Ecclesiarch, that we've not touched on, which I wondered what you thought about. So one was around practice mode no longer contributing to daily missions. And the other was they mentioned about potentially bringing in some PvE. Now, when it comes to practice mode, I was always quite a big fan of practice mode. I love the fact that, and again, if we're talking about new players, like they can play with cards they don't own, legendary cards. I think it's one of the best things for me about the Warpforge new experience. I think practice mode's brilliant. And actually, when the Space Wolves come out, that's usually the first thing I do is just play all the practice decks just to kind of get a feel for, for the cards. But I think it then kind of like is a bit anti-beginner to then say, well, you can't now use those against mission progress. Because again, you're not confident when you're playing with new cards. And I think playing against the AI is fine. Like when I play chess on chess.com, sometimes I play against the AI because I just want to like try something, right? I don't want it to be like affect my ELO rating or play. I just want to try something like a new concept, for example. And why not play against like beginner AI to just test it, just to work it through, kind of thing. Like, why are we getting rid of that and punishing people? And then on the PvE piece, I'm like, again, that screams to me this new direction of a bit like what happened in Runeterra, right, where it went from PvP to PvE. Now, got to say that as a 40k game, it makes a lot of sense, because one thing we've got with 40k is a ton of lore. You could have a whole Space Wolves versus Thousand Suns, like the whole entire PvE tree just through that, using the thing that, the campaign maps that we really love, the premium campaigns and stuff. And that map could be used quite well in a kind of PvE structure as you move on from chapter to next chapter. I can imagine working through one of those and getting rewards and enjoying story and narrative. So I think the PvE is something that, again, it's not really why I play CCGs, but as a 40k fan, I could see that working really, really well in Warpforge. Do you have any thoughts on those two changes?
Well, on the first one, not much to say, BJ. Restriction. I'm not in favor of restrictions. So again, not was unnecessary. It was good to make the camp missions not trait based, but you don't need to remove it from practice for every reason that you said. As for PvE, I'm all for that. We have PvE in Legions. We have different types of PvE. We had some draft with PvE while we were killing some bosses and stuff. Like every player who would beat it would contribute. And we also have an actual PvE. So it's like campaign for each of the Legions, Space Marine ones. And basically what you would do is, for example, Night Lord ones would be the Thramas Crusade. You would have Fall for Imperial Fist, where you play as Alexis Pollux, and the ultimate, and you like win battles, you progress, and then finally you have to fight Perturabo. And if you beat Perturabo, you get some rewards, and then you have an option. Now you can fight the Chaos Corrupted Perturabo, the one that's already ascended, let's put it like that, which is extra difficult. And if you do win, you get a cool card back. And I remember like this was one of the hardest ones that I had. I think it was the hardest one was, I think so. It was, I think, fighting Mortarion with Jagatai Khan, because he started as the Demon Mortarion, and it was very difficult. I remember there was one boss I struggled with, but I wanted the card back so much. Oh, it was the opposite, actually. It was fighting the Khan as Mortarion, I think. And it was like so difficult. And if you did beat it, you got a very cool card back. Like, I have almost all of them in HHL, and they are like some of the best card backs you can get. Also, there was this one where you had to fight Lehman Russ, I believe, as either Magnus or somebody, and he already started with a ward, meaning you couldn't cast spells on him. So there's like so many cool things that you can do, right? And I'm all for that, especially if they bring some card back rewards, because since they decided it was a smart idea to no longer reward us for top 50 with card backs, like now you only get it for a month. I'm not complaining. I almost never compete, right, for top 50. I competed, I think, the first 3 times, and then I was like, okay, I don't need to anymore. But like removing card backs, like why? So instead of that, how about you actually add it to the PvE? By the way, Space Wolves get a very cool card back. I don't think I'm giving $100 for that, but the card back that's there, oh my god, it's so cool though, BJ.
Have I got that?
You do get that, because you.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It's so cool though. It's like, I think it almost looks like it's animated. I gotta give it to them. Some of them card backs are just absolutely amazing. So those are my thoughts on the issue. That's it.
So I guess that's pretty much everything. I mean, I know they're changing some things with the currency a little bit and whatnot, but they did say that they are going to take on board some of the feedback, the official feedback, in terms of the main ladder system, which I think is good, because that's not probably worked out quite so well. But I'm kind of keen to just kind of finish with like your overall thoughts on all of this, like how you're feeling just generally about the game and the overall direction. let's just close out with that.
Mixed feelings. I still love the game. I'm still gonna make content for it. We talked about this yesterday, guys. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sticking with you. We're gonna see it through the end. Either it's gonna succeed or it's not. We'll see about that. My attitude stays the same for that, but I have hopes still. I'm a bit of an optimist, I know. I still have hopes that everything is gonna be going well. And I hope that Everguild does consider some of the feedback, maybe remove the restrictions and not kill the Classic. If EG makes it so that they don't murder Classic with whatever they're doing right now, it might end up being a good thing in the long run, right? So let's just hope that they consider more community feedback. What I'm going to say is I'm going to say the same thing. We need to create a platform where we will have easy communication. Because again, I see it from the EG side as well. Going on Discord to see some guy just screaming how he's gonna like burn down the headquarters if they don't change something. Of course, that's not constructive feedback, but that's why you gotta have a platform where people can actually voice their opinion, right? For example, doing that survey they did was a good idea, for example. So we need more of those things so that we can communicate what we need, right? Otherwise, yeah. For now, I'm not feeling the best about it, but let's see. Let's see where it goes.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I suppose in the short term, I'm excited to play some Space Wolves. I'm just going to try my best to ignore the whole new release restrictions and do what I can. I'll probably try some draft mode, and some on the skirmish, and like I say, I've spent some money, so I should hopefully be able to bring, some decks. I'm going to probably do a few live streams and stuff. So I'm looking forward to just playing a bit of Warpforge this month and playing a little bit of Space Wolves. I think in the long term, I think it's clear to me that this is a pivot. I don't think the numbers have probably been very good this year for Warpforge, and I think that they're trying to do something about that. And I think it's very clear to me. I mean, there's lots of little things, but what do they all add up to? I think they add up to a renewed focus. I think they're probably looking at Classic as a bit of a savior. And I think there's a bit of a focus on making the game more fast, more accessible to new people. And unfortunately, if you're a hardcore player who's been around from the beginning, that's not great news, and I get that. Because that's the stuff I'm on the hardcore side of the fence when it comes to CCGs, because I enjoy the competitive play, I enjoy all of that stuff. But to me, this is a clear pivot, and it's going to be really interesting. I don't know where it's going. I don't know if it's going to work for the game or not, but it is clear that it's a pivot. So it's a kind of watch this space and let's see how it goes. Obviously, if you listen to this, let us know down in the comments what your thoughts and views are too, because the more conversation we have around it, the better. And it's always good to get different perspectives. But hey, it's been really great catching up with you, Ecclesiarch, and really good to talk about some Warpforge again. I feel like a little bit refreshed, after having taken a little break. And I definitely think some of these changes are at least interesting, so I'm keen to kind of like give some of it a shot and see. But we're just going to have to see where this all goes.
Time will tell. All I'll say before we end, guys, is that I think what Everguild should do is they should look at what worked and what not, because the previous year was actually awesome. We had the faction leaderboards, which was so good. We had some new factions dropping, and everybody, I think, was having much more fun than usual. There were some times when we had some warlords going crazy, but overall, I think it was pretty good. And ever since then, we had the vault, we had the faction leaderboards removed, the new ranking system, and apparently it did not translate too well, and neither did the Rushed Emperor's Children release. So maybe they should focus on what's working currently, right? So keep things that are working, keep things that are good, and try to focus on fixing what is not good, right? So let's see how it rolls. We're here and we shall see it through. So there you go.
Indeedy weedy. Indeedy weedy. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And we will see you in the next episode of FORGECAST.
Peace.
We'll be talking about some Space Wolves. Ciao for now.